Rejoining us here at Red Lodge for round 2 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing Mini Bike Championship, listening live online via the Cool Fab Racing website. Of course, later on here today, we'll be going live on Facebook as well. Keep your messages coming on Facebook and Twitter to be read out and reviewed later on when we have our live Facebook show. At the moment, we're on track with the Mini GP70 category for Q2 for them. Current championship seeing Joshua Watley, after an unbeaten weekend at Llandau, leading the way on 75 points. Nearest rival in terms of championship points is Harvey Claridge, who took a second place and 2/3 in South Wales. He was fastest in Q1, and at the moment he sits fastest in Q2 as well, improving on his Q1 time by about 0.4 of a second. He currently sits just under a second clear of Brodie Crockford in this second qualifying session. Crockford finished in 4th place in Q1 with a 33.6, so he has improved by half a second as Oscar Pinson goes over the line to complete his 8th lap of this qualifying session. He currently sits in 3rd in the timings in Q2. He finished down in 8th in Q1, so plenty of shaking up of the current order compared to the opening qualifying session of the day, and the riders all improving on their times as well as they come over the line. In fact, riders further down in the timesheets also improving on their times. Brodie Crockford setting his personal best last time around in 2nd. Jay Abel, Oscar Pinson and Louis Rendell in a group just coming over the line to start their next qualifying lap. As I said, in Q1 it was Harvey Claridge who came out on top. He set 15 completed laps. Jay Abel, the only rider in Q1 doing more laps than that, but both Claridge and Abel completing their fastest laps towards the end of that session, and as you therefore expect, they're continuing to improve in Q2. Harvey Claridge out in front at the moment by just under a second, as I said, with a 32.1 the time to beat. Jeremy Knight just coming over the line, heading around Senna now. He sets a 33.2. That moves him up into 3rd position in this second qualifying session, and matching the pace that he set in Q1, which was also a 33.2 for 2nd position, 0.6 of a second back on that occasion from Harvey Claridge. He now sits 2nd in arrears of Claridge in 3rd position as Jay Abel comes over the line to set a new personal best himself, as does Louis Rendell, who's in a group behind him, and then Jeremy Knight goes faster as well. So as this Q2 goes on, we're just over halfway through this second qualifying session in the Mini GP70 class. All of the riders repeatedly improving on their fastest times, gaining in confidence all of the time, of course, and those of them who perhaps have less experience of this circuit finding their way around the track. It's a very technical circuit here at Red Lodge. Couple of extremely fast corners as well, particularly at the top end of the circuit through what's known here as the S's. It's a really fast left-hander that then gradually tightens towards a crisscross, or as the riders have been calling it down in the paddock, a flip-flop, which gave me cause for a little bit of laughter. There's a few flip-flops, if you like, here at this circuit. For those of you at home, there's around about 3 chicanes on the track. As they come off Senna, there's a chicane that when you're in a kart, you clip into the barriers as you go through. I didn't say that, if anyone from Red Lodge Karting is listening, incidentally. And then down towards the 180 that then fires you onto a fast sort of curve that effectively is treated as a straight up towards the top end of the circuit. But it's almost like in a basin here. It's very flat all the way around the track. Great for vantage points if you're here to spectate, and of course do always encourage people to come down to the track. It's free of charge to come and watch the youngsters, the stars of the future, taking in some cases their tentative laps, but in most cases they're extremely fast laps. 32-second lap here at the moment is the fastest in Q2 in the Mini GP70 category, as Louis Rendell comes over the line to move 4th fastest in this session with a 33.2, so new personal best for him. That's still a second down on the current fastest in this session, Harvey Claridge, who just crosses the line at the back of that group with a 32.6, half a second down on his fastest in Q2. And Claridge was the top two-time rider in Mini GP 70 qualifying 1, and he is currently second in the championship ahead of Callum Beach. And Beach had a non-scoring second race in Clandau, but 2 second places either side of that make him among the contenders for the 2017 championship in the Mini GP 70 category. But similar trend to what we saw in the opening round. Harvey Claridge, Callum Beach, Jeremy Knight and Brodie Crockford all in the top 5 in the point standings, all with double-figure scores in their races in Clandau, and they again sit towards the top of the timesheets in the Mini GP 70 category in Q2 here, as we see just under 3 minutes left on the timings here in Q2. Harvey Claridge leading the way ahead of Jeremy Knight in second, Brodie Crockford in third, Callum Beach just coming over the line in front of our commentary position with Claridge tucked in behind him. A slower lap that time around for Harvey Claridge as they continue to work their way around the circuits with just over 2 minutes remaining. I'm just watching out of the corner of my eye, and in fact slightly blocked by the paddock here, someone just getting the machine started coming out of the S's and trying to rejoin the action here. So once they dip out from the exit of the S's, I might be able to see who that is, but we'll see it in the timings in a second anyway, because when he next crosses the line it'll read a slower lap, as Brodie Crockford comes over the line with a new personal best for this second qualifying session, a 33 flat, gaining to within just over a tenth of Jeremy Knight, who still sits second in this session. So it's Claridge, Knight and Crockford at the moment. It was Claridge, Knight and Beach in Q1, with Crockford slightly slower with a 33.6. Now he's eclipsed that time with a 33 flat, and Callum Beach just going over the line with a 33.3 on that last lap. 33.2 his best at the moment in this session, which is a slight improvement on Q1, but wouldn't be enough to get the better of Crockford, Knight and Claridge, who at the moment have improved in this second qualifying session. So we're starting to develop a pattern as to who is likely now to be on the front 2 rows of this race. Luke Coggins just coming over the line to set a new personal best of a 34-second lap. He sits in 8th position in the times at the moment. He was 7th fastest in Q1. Several riders dipping in towards the pits with 40 seconds still showing on the timer, so satisfied with what they've done during this session and happy to pull in a little bit early. Oscar Pinson leading a group of riders, including Jay Abel and Owen Mellor, all of whom are in similar positions actually in the timings at the moment, towards the bottom end of the pack, as Callum Beach sets a new personal best, and that is important, a 32.8, which is going to be his personal best with Q1 and Q2 combined, and moves him up to second position and onto the front row of the grid. So with just over 10 seconds of the session left, Callum Beach has fired himself up the standings with a new personal best on the last lap of qualifying, and to within 7/10 of a second of Harvey Claridge. Jay Abel now coming over the line as the first of the riders take the checkered flag. Of course, with time still left on the time, they were still allowed to complete the lap that they were on, so Beach may actually have got another lap there. Takes the checkered flag now with a 32.9 on his final lap. So in the end, his fastest lap is on the penultimate lap of that session, but certainly finding the pace late on there, Callum Beach, to move back up to second. He was P3 in qualifying 1, but hadn't been able to improve on that pace until what turned out to be his second to last lap of qualifying 2, and he's found the pace to move back into the top 3 positions. So at the end of qualifying 2 in Mini GP 70, the timings see Harvey Claridge come out on top ahead of Callum Beach in P2, third going to Jeremy Knight, and fourth to Brodie Crockford. But second to fifth positions, very, very close indeed. Louis Rendell just at the end of that group. And to be honest, all of the top 8 separated by less than 2 seconds. So there will be some quite even racing in the Mini GP 70 category, with Harvey Claridge looking to become the championship leader this weekend and coming out on top in Q2.
This is the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. The official partner series to the BSB.
Yeah, if you almost get them coming up and straight towards you, that's probably look for that sort of shot.
Next up is the Pit Bike Open category. The current championship leader is Charlie Nesbitt with an unbeaten weekend in Clandau, ahead of Elliot Pinson and Max Cook. Cook, who finished second in the third race of the weekend at round number 1. James Rose is fourth in the championship standings. He leads the group away and finished second in the opening race of the weekend, third in the second race, and then failed to score in race number 3. So James Rose with a little bit of catching up to do, but should be going with the front guys in this weekend's competition, and well, immediately does so. He is leading the group around and is at the moment top of the timings as well, with a 33 flat ahead of Elliot Pinson. Ryan O'Grady third in the timings after just the opening 2 laps of Q2 in the Pit Bike Open category. Riders also using this as a bit of an opportunity to practice their passing manoeuvres. One of the longest straights on the circuit here, which is at Oak Tree here at Red Lodge, takes you up towards the top bend, but then that top bend is an extremely fast left-hander, so it's difficult to get down the inside of someone there, and then it tightens further through the S's, meaning that unless you can get all the way around the outside of someone, you can't have the inside coming off the chicane and down the Simpson Straight, which is where the leaders are at the moment, all heading their way round the paddock bend and onto the start-finish straight, past the control tower and past our commentary position here on the, well, more or less in line with the start-finish line. James Rose still fastest after 4 completed laps now, although just as I say that, Elliot Pinson jumps above him with a 32.3, so James Rose's new fastest lap becomes a new personal best instead, a 32.3, so just a fraction between them of less than a tenth of a second. Elliot Pinson, James Rose and Max Cook in that order at the moment. James Rose having dropped down then from first position, having led the timesheets. But I suggested that at the opening round at Clandau, the top 4 seemed to break away in this class. Charlie Nesbitt, Elliot Pinson, Max Cook and James Rose in all of their races. In fact, Ryan O'Grady was the only other rider to make a top 4 finish, and that was when James Rose had a non-scoring outing in the third race of the weekend. Whether that will be exactly the same this weekend remains to be seen. At the moment, the top 4: Elliot Pinson, James Rose, Max Cook and Ryan O'Grady. So qualifying 2 in the Pit Bike Open category. At the moment there's less than a tenth of a second in it between Elliot Pinson and James Rose, 2 of the top 4 after the opening round in Clandau. The other top performers at round number 1, Charlie Nesbitt and Max Cook. Cook sitting third in the time charts at the moment with a new personal best last lap around of a 32.3. Pinson, Rose and Cook in that order for now then. Ryan O'Grady in 4th position. The top 6 separated by less than 2 seconds, and then there's a 0.6 of a second gap, and the rest of the pack at the moment further in arrears than that, as Elliot Pinson comes over the line to set a new fastest lap of this qualifying 2 session, a 31.9, and opens up his margin over James Rose, who still sits second with a 32.1. Rose though set a 32.2 last time around, so he's still lapping at more or less the same pace and if he can stretch himself, may just be able to get back on terms with Elliot Pinson. But he was within 1/10 of a second of Pinson, and now he's 4/10 down. Pinson setting a 31.7 on his 9th completed lap. Max Cook didn't feature initially in the timing. I'm not sure whether he may have had a problem with the transponder or some such, but he is registering laps now, a 32.3 last time around, as he currently sits 3rd, ahead of Ryan O'Grady and Will Howarth, who round out the top 5. John Ansell and Gareth Roberts, who sit 6th and 7th, each set their personal bests on the previous lap, as Elliot Pinson comes over the line and again goes faster. So with each passing lap of this second qualifying session, Elliot Pinson getting faster and faster. It's a 31.6 that is now the time to beat, set by Elliot Pinson, who, as I said, was one of the only riders to have made it on the podium at each of the 3 races at Clandau. The only other rider, of course, was Charlie Nesbitt, who made it 3 wins out of 3 during the weekend. Max Cook taking 1 podium finish, and James Rose taking 2, alongside that pairing of Nesbitt and Pinson, who therefore lead the way in the point standings coming in to this round number 2. Pinson again going faster on his 11th completed lap in Q2, a 31.6 his time there. So he still sits up ahead of James Rose, and with each lap trying to further extend his leading margin. James Rose just coming over the line with a 32.5. That's about half a second short of his previous best, and actually Elliot Pinson's pace dropped off on that last lap as well to a 33.3. So not sure whether there was a yellow flag that I didn't notice as they went around last lap, but it seems that the lead pace dropped off somewhat, and now we're getting some the next group of riders coming through, with Will Howarth, John Ansell and so on, have set respectable times on that last lap again. So Will Howarth with a 33.1, a new personal best for this Q2, 1.5 seconds short of Elliot Pinson, who just crosses the line now again, slower than his personal best for this session. Jack Walters setting his new personal best to move up to 9th position, 34.6, his new personal best in Q2. So not only improving his time, but also jumping up in terms of position. No change in the other positions within the top 10. The other riders unable to match their previous best paces. It's Elliot Pinson who leads the way with a 31.6. James Rose just coming over the line. He sits 2nd at the moment. His personal best a 32.1. His last lap a 32.6. And Jack Walters again going faster than he's been before, a 34.6 on that last lap, his 13th completed lap. No change in position, but he does further improve that time, and the gap now down to just under half a second to Josh Ingram, who completes the top 8 runners here in the second qualifying session in the pit bike open category. And looking at some of the riders further down the order, Felix Hearn with a new personal best on his last lap. He sits just on the outside of the top 10 positions, 0.3 of a second away from Callum Wybrow, who sits 10th, as Jack Walters again further improves his time. So his pace is gradually improving as this session goes on. His new personal best also takes him up into the top 8. I said he was getting closer to Josh Ingram's personal best time. He improves on it with a 33.9 and now sits just over 2 seconds short of the top performer in this second qualifying session. But there is still a gap below the top 7, which is something I mentioned previously. The top 7 within 1.5 seconds roughly of one another, and then a bit of a gap to the rest of the pack that now is led in the time charts by Jack Walters, who for the first time in 4 or 5 laps is unable to improve on his personal best as he completes his 15th lap of this session, and with less than 3 minutes remaining in qualifying 2 in the pit bike open category. Pinson leading the way then ahead of Rose. Max Cook is credited with the 3rd fastest time. Grady and Will Howarth, who round out the top 5 in the timings for qualifying 2. The top 7 all closely packed within one another, and positions 5 to 7 in particular are within just over 1/10 of a second of one another, all looking to try and make up ground on Ryan O'Grady, who just comes over the line on the number 49 bike, who sits 4th in this section. Jack Wilson's the only rider to improve on his last lap, a 33.9, so slight improvement on his previous best. trying to gain in some ground on Gareth Roberts. That's, as I said, the fringes of the top 7. The top 7, on the basis of what we've seen in this second qualifying session, you'd expect them to go together, although Jack Walters has just made a leap towards the back of that group with a 33.6. So watch for that number 14 bike, because the more this session goes on, the more he's improving on his times. He's running out of time if he wants to make it into that top 7, but he's bridged the gap to them now. He is now well clear of Josh Ingram's personal best time behind him. Ingram's running about half a second off his personal best pace, and Jack Walters setting a new new personal best lap last time around, and does so again actually on his 18th completed lap to come within a 10th of a second of Gareth Roberts. And now there's a group between 5th and 8th positions, all separated by less than 0.2 of a second. So Jack Walters making further improvements, and he's got time for probably 2, maybe 3 laps in the remainder of this session. About a minute left on the stopwatch in qualifying 2, as Elliot Pinson and James Rose come over the line more or less together now, down towards the infield section effectively of this circuit. It's kind of a triangle for those of you at home, that then has an infield section of all sorts of twists and turns. Of course, perhaps saying a triangle is simplifying things slightly, but just so that those of you at home who may not have been to Red Lodge before just have an understanding of the layout of the circuit. Even the start-finish straight is slightly curved, but that's the bend at the bottom of the basin, if you like, and then we look upwards from race control, also from the terracing here at Red Lodge, which gives you a great vantage point, as I've said previously, over the whole circuit. Will Howarth and Max Cook Will Howarth setting a new personal best on that last lap with a 32.9. He sits in 5th position, and as for whether Jack Walters can further improve, well, he's still buzzing around about the 33.3 that's his personal best at the moment. 33.4 on that previous lap, as John Ansell takes the checkered flag and the session is completed. He does so with a new personal best, a 33.1, so all credit to John Ansell. Gareth Roberts can't go better than him with a 34.2 on his final lap and remains in 7th position as they come towards the line. Elliot Pinson with the fastest time at the moment, a 31.3, which was set on his 22nd lap, and that may well prove his last lap as he finishes top in Q2 in the pit bike open category, ahead of James Rose in 2nd, Max Cook 3rd in the timings. The timings are only showing 3 completed laps, so not sure whether there's an issue there. Ryan O'Grady and Will Howarth rounding out the top 5. John Ansell with a new personal best on his final lap of 33.1, so close to the group in front of him. A bit of a gap, a bit of a spread between the top 3, a spread of a second, but then 4th positions right the way down actually to 8th place, separated by half a second. So that'll be quite an entertaining battle from 4th to 8th positions when we do get to the race time. Just a reminder in terms of the schedule and how things are working here both this morning and this afternoon. We are about halfway through Q2 now. We've got the AC40 Pro second qualifying session, the Senior Mini Motos second qualifying session, and the Junior LC40 second qualifying session before we have a break for lunch. Then the sidecars get their Q2, and then we're underway with racing and returning to the order that we saw in qualifying 1 and qualifying 2. So plenty of gaps for the riders to make any mechanical adjustments, and I'm sure many of them will have been doing just that between Q1 and Q2. Most of the riders yesterday were talking about gearing changes when they came for open practice. Not all of the riders who are taking part today were here yesterday for that open practice, and now we've got fuller grids obviously as we head towards the first race action of the weekend here at Red Lodge in Suffolk. So we're now out onto the circuit for the AC40 Pro category, their second qualifying session. Fastest in Q1 was Casey O'Gorman. It's a familiar name. Second in the time sheets in Q1 in the AC40 Pro class was Ross Maguire. Maguire, who sits top of this AC40 Pro category after race victories in the 3 races at Llandau. Johnny Garnes at the moment is the fastest, but only one completed lap, of course. It's not until the end of lap 2 that you really start to get an idea of the positions and how they're shaking down. Of course, the first lap is the out lap, so it doesn't really mean too much in terms of fastest laps and so on. It's 49.6, that's the time to beat, set by Casey O'Gorman during 8 laps of qualifying 1. Riders who completed the most laps in Q1 completed 14 laps, around about a 50-second lap for the top performers in Q1. Johnny Garnes remains the fastest in Q2 at the moment with a 50.6. Faster than he went earlier on this morning when he set a 51.3 in Q1. So a lot of position changes so far compared to Q1, which hasn't been the case in all of the categories. Only 2 minutes elapsed though in this second qualifying in the AC40 Pro category. Ross Maguire, the current championship leader, was second in the timings in Q1. Evan Belford second in the championship points after a second place in race 2 and a third place in race 3 at Llandough. 2 podium finishes for him during a weekend away in South Wales, and he's got ground to make up on Ross Maguire. In classes where obviously we've had the same winner in 3 races, their rivals really had some head scratching to do between round number 1 and round 2, but nice spread in the calendar, so the riders have had an opportunity to do any testing or so on before they come to this second round of the 2017 season with Cool FAB-Racing. Well, it's Ross Maguire who is back on top now. Johnny Garnes still with that 50.6 time, which is an improvement on his personal best from this morning, so he'll be fairly satisfied with that. But it's Maguire who's back on top, ahead at the moment of Casey O'Gorman, but still neither of them meeting their personal best times from this morning, and it is the 2 sessions combined that will determine the grid positions for the race action after lunch. Interesting to watch riders making overtakes at the 180, as it's called, which is effectively the infield bend for those of you listening to online radio at home. And just by taking a wider entry and then a tighter exit, that gives you a real slingshot all the way up towards Oak Tree, carrying the momentum through the left-hander and then up towards the fast-paced left-hander at the top end of the circuit. So that's a really critical couple of corners. Chicane, or flip-flop, as I said, the youngsters were calling it earlier on, ahead of the 180 bend. And then carrying good speed through there gives you speed all the way up. It's a very gentle incline up towards the top end of the circuit in the S's. So good speed through there is important, or critical, I would even say, in terms of what speed you can carry at the top end of the circuit. And why do I talk about that? Well, because I've just seen a couple of riders practicing overtaking manoeuvres coming off the 180, pulling alongside, then obviously on the outside through the next left-hander, and it takes the brave to then get across to the inside line and clip the apex before coming up at full speed down towards the top end of the circuit. But that will be one of the passing places to watch as this weekend goes on. Coming up towards halfway now through the second qualifying session in the AC40 Pro category, with Ross Maguire leading the way with a 50 flat, but neither he nor Casey O'Gorman have been able to improve on their times from this morning. O'Gorman set a 49.6 and Ross Maguire a 49.9, so just under 0.4 of a second between them earlier on today. Eddie O'Shea just under a second behind them in Q1 with a 50.5. He's only been able to set a 50.9 so far in Q2. So as I said in the opening few laps of this second qualifying session, there's been quite a difference between the riders and the positions in Q1 compared to Q2, which is quite interesting. Johnny Garnes and Ollie Walker both setting new personal best laps last time around, so there's still plenty of opportunity for further improvement. And we've got groups of riders going together, whether that's to spur one another on or just to practice lining one another up for overtakes, as I said previously, because there's a lot of swapping and changing in positions, and actually just watching a group of 6 riders coming around through the S's at the top end of the circuit, just dipping away out of our vision from this top end of the circuit. The fact that they're going together probably ends up meaning that they slow one another down to an extent as well, but it does give them an opportunity to watch one another's lines. Again, we're seeing side by side coming off 180, which, as I've suggested previously, is a likely opportunistic passing move for the Brave, as they then come up towards Oak Tree around the S's and then back down the Simpson Straight towards Paddock Bend and onto the start-finish straights here at Red Lodge. 49.1 the lap set last time around from Casey O'Gorman. That's completely eclipsed any time that has been set in this qualifying session here today in the AC40 Pro class, which is currently out on track with 5 minutes remaining here at Red Lodge. Casey O'Gorman then the top performer with a 49.1, a new personal best for Ross Maguire, and it's a 49.9. So finally he's been able to improve on his pace from this morning's Q1 session, but he still can't do anything about Casey O'Gorman, who for a while in this second qualifying was further down the order, but has finally decided to step on it, and it's a 49.1 the time now to beat ahead of Ross Maguire. So the top 2 are the same as they were earlier on today, but Eddie O'Shea not showing the pace that he did in Q1. A 50.5 was his time to beat. 50.9 is all he's been able to manage so far in Q2. Dylan Mellor setting a new personal best on his previous lap. That was a 50.3, and that's a significant improvement on his Q1 performance, which was a 51 flat. And obviously brother Owen Mellor's out there as well, so they're separated by 1 position at the moment. Dylan in 4th and Owen in 5th. Owen setting his new personal best lap last time around with a 50.5, so there is now just over a tenth of a second between Dylan and Owen Mellor in 4th and 5th positions in this Q2. And great to see riders improving right the way through the timings in this qualifying 2 session. Taylor Stewart Campbell just setting his new personal best and gaining ground on the group in front of him with a 53.1, and that's what it's all about here at Cool Fab Racing. Riders gaining in experience, gaining in track time, and improving on their personal bests as they go through. And that's also what it's all about in terms of qualifying, actually trying to improve as you go through from free practice, open practice for those who took part on Friday, then through Q1 and Q2 to try and get the best possible time and the best possible grid slot, of course, for the 3 races here this weekend. It's critical to set a good time in qualifying because that carries forward through 3 races. So you don't want to be setting a poor time in qualifying and then having to battle through the grid and through the order in each of the races. And we saw at the opening round at Clandau that the pace is so hot that the top 4 or top 5 very often break away, and then any rider who's trying to make their way through the grid is going to have it all on to try and make up positions, because they're also going to be making up time on the leaders when they do break away. Just over 2 minutes remaining in this second qualifying session in the AC40 Pros, and riders still making improvements further down the order. Taylor Lawrence setting a new personal best on that last lap, the 10th lap that Taylor had completed, a 52.7 to move up into the top 15. A total of 26 riders have been out on the circuit in this AC40 Pro class, which is a very impressive grid indeed. And as I said previously, riders improving right the way through down to 26th position. And actually quite a proximity looking at the times as I'm talking about the riders in the lower order of the timings. And Alexander Merchant improves to a 54.9, so that's 23rd position. Hasn't done so many laps as some of the other riders in this session, but as I said, improving all the time, as they are through the majority of the lower order at the moment. The top 13 separated by 2.5 seconds. Then there's a bit of a gap to the rest of the riders, so that's the pace to run with, as Evan Belford jumps up the standings from well down with a 50.7. New personal best last lap as well for Ollie Walker, who sits 6th. So there is still an opportunity for some movement, because Evan Belford with a good time there. As I said previously, the number 52 bike sits second in the championship at the moment, was fifth fastest in Q1 with a 50.9, and that's a 50.7 that he's set on that last lap. So that's good news for him as he just moves his way up the rankings. Johnny Garnes with a new personal best of a 50.1, so he sits third at the moment, and that's over a second quicker than he went in Q1. Over a second still down on Casey O'Gorman. O'Gorman then top, ahead of Maguire in second. Johnny Garnes at the moment in third. Dylan Mellor and Owen Mellor in fourth and fifth positions, ahead of that group behind, including Ollie Walker and Evan Belford, who was the rider I was talking about as having improved his pace. And actually he's kept with that pace with a 50.8 on his last lap. Sandy Horn just coming over the line, rounding out the top 8 at the moment. And I spoke previously about the top 13 having a bit of a gap behind them, as Eddie O'Shea sets a new personal best on his 13th lap, and I think that's probably going to be his final lap as well, as the checkered flag falls in the second qualifying session of the AC40 Pros. A 50.8 then for Eddie O'Shea. Ross Maguire, Johnny Garnes coming over the line to complete their qualifying session in second and third positions. So Q2 results in the AC40 Pros. Casey O'Gorman coming out on top as he did in Q1. Ross Maguire finishing second as he did in Q1. Eddie O'Shea, though, who finished third in Q1, only down in 8th position with a new personal best in the latter stages there, leaving Johnny Garnes, Dylan Mellor and Owen Mellor to round out the top 5 in Q2 in the AC40 Pros.
This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screens but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you, 'cause there's a spark in you, you just gotta ignite the light and let it shine, just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you're worth. Make 'em go as you shoot across the sky.
I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. He put one hand upon my head. Great God Almighty, let me tell you what he said. Go tell that lonesome liar, go tell that midnight rider, tell the gambling, rambling, backslider, tell him God Almighty gonna cut him down. You might run on for a long time, run on, ducking and dodging, run on you for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty gonna cut you down. You might throw your rock, hide your hand, working it off with your fellow men. Show us God made you rich and poor. You gonna reap just what you sow.
This is Cool Fab Racing. Live coverage all season on the Cool Fab Racing Facebook page and on the website coolfabracing.com.
Welcome back to round 2 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing Mini Bike Championship, where we're deep now into Q2. Just 2 Q2 sessions remaining before the lunch break, and then racing here this afternoon. Remember to check in online later on when we do get underway with racing. We'll be live on Facebook as well as live online at the Cool Fab Racing website, and of course online radio as we go through the weekend, and we'll be joined, as I said, by that Facebook live coverage. So at the moment it's the senior mini motos who are out on track for their second qualifying session. Top in the championship after the opening round at Llandau, it's Will Howarth, unbeaten through 3 races in the senior mini motos. He leads the points ahead of Mark Payne and Jamie King. Slightly different riders and order on the basis of what we saw in Q1 in the senior mini motos, which was Will Howarth ahead of Ryan Grant and Josh Data. Josh Data finished in 6th position at round number 1 in the points added together, and Josh Grant on the same tally of 27 points classified 7th at the moment. So tied for 6th position, Josh Data and Ryan Grant, who currently sit 2nd and 3rd after Q1. Now looking at Q2, Richard Holmes Williams with a new personal best on his previous lap of a 50, just looking at that again, 50.8 it was. And his best this morning earlier on was 52.6, so plenty of room for movement and improvement for these riders. At the moment it's Will Howarth topping the time charts, as he did in Q1 and as he did indeed during the entire weekend in South Wales to take 3 race victories. Howarth on top with a 50.7, that's the time to beat. But Richard Holmes Williams with a massive improvement compared to Q1 is his closest rival at the moment in Q2, just over a 10th of a second in arrears. And then a bit of a gap behind him to Josh Data, and a deficit then to Paul Nichols, and then a whole group of riders from 4th right the way down to 7th in the timings for this Q2, including Andy Weedon, Matt Birkin, who've just gone over the line along with Justin Bainbridge, and Bainbridge joining the back of that group with a new personal best of a 52.7. So as I said, right the way from 4th to 8, extremely competitive. The front 3 at the moment breaking away in terms of their times. Will Howarth leading Richard Holmes Williams and Josh Data. Had a yellow flag situation for the majority of the riders who made their way through the 180 on this lap, and that's going to hold back their progress slightly. The 2 riders who improved on their personal best last lap around were Justin Bainbridge and Nick Bennett. It's still Will Howarth then leading the way ahead of Richard Holmes Williams and Josh Data. Ryan Grant, who finished with a 52.3 earlier on today, is back on the same pace, a 52.3 again in this Q2. But as we've seen in the majority of the classes so far here at Red Lodge, the times improving as the weekend and indeed as this session goes on. And just as I say that to prove my point, Richard Holmes Williams makes further improvements, having dropped loads off of his time from this morning. A 52.6 was his previous best. He's now down to 50.8. Just over a second in arrears of Will Howarth, who leads at present with a 50.7. So we'll see if Richard Holmes Williams can continue to improve and try and reel in more of that margin, or possibly even overhaul Will Howarth for the fastest time of the day in the senior mini motos. We're more than halfway through this session now. Howarth leading the timesheets ahead of Richard Holmes Williams in 2nd and Josh Data in 3rd. Paul Nicholls, who sits 5th in the championship with 37 points, 3 double-figure scores at the opening round. He is 4th at the moment, as Richard Holmes-Williams does exactly what I suggested last lap he would be hoping to do, which is to move into P1, less than 10th of a second up on Will Howarth, but Howarth with a slow lap last time around, so we'll see if he can find the pace again to try and overhaul Richard Holmes-Williams, who sits fastest now with a new fastest lap of a 50.6 last time around. That is quite an incredible improvement from a 52.6 in this morning's Q1. He's found 2 seconds from somewhere between Q1 and Q2. So Richard Holmes-Williams, who didn't take part in the senior mini-motos at the opening round, is the current leader in Q2 and provisional pole sitter as well, ahead of current championship leader in this category, Will Howarth, who topped Q1 with a 51.1, but despite improving on that time by 0.4 of a second, has been overhauled by Richard Holmes-Williams. And both of the top two at the moment in Q2 are lapping on not only very similar pace to one another, but also very similar pace to their personal best. So that certainly proves that this is the pace to run with. And with a big gap between themselves and Josh Data behind, 0.8 of a second between Josh Data and the top two, who, as I said, are separated by less than 1/10 of a second. This is the penultimate qualifying session before we head off towards the lunch break and then the race action here this afternoon, which, as a reminder, will be live on Facebook, live online radio through the Cool Fab Racing website. And of course, do please keep in touch with us through Facebook and Twitter. And those of you who are here trackside, get family back home to check in, to send in messages, and of course to listen up to the coverage as we go through the weekend. Justin Bainbridge just setting a new personal best on that last lap as he sits in 4th position ahead of Paul Nicholls. So there is a competitive group from 4th right the way down to 8th position. I've said about that previously, less than half a second separating 4th to 8th positions, and Nick Bennett is leading the next group behind them from 9th place ahead of William Birkin, who rounds out the top 10. Well, Will Howarth is back on top, having set a 50.4, so there's still more mileage in this Q2 session in the senior mini-motos, with just over 2 minutes left on the clock. 49.6 is the time to beat, and Richard Holmes-Williams improves on his personal best with a 50.1, but he's got a long way to go now to catch Will Howarth. Not sure where he's managed to drag that one up from, but that was superb. Over 1.5 seconds faster than he went in Q1, and he already had a gap of over a second in Q1, so he's had to dredge up some real fast lap times in Q2 to maintain his provisional pole position, because Richard Holmes-Williams for a while in this Q1 was the fastest performer with a 50.1, which in itself is significantly faster than anyone went in Q1. So the track temperature perhaps going up, certainly the riders acclimatising to the track, and as we've said in several of the classes, improving on their personal bests. Just over a minute remaining then in Q2 in the senior mini-motos, and it's Will Howarth who's been the only rider to dip below the 50-second mark in this category, who currently tops the timesheets. Richard Holmes-Williams, the closest that anyone's got to him, but that's still a half a second almost behind that fastest lap of qualifying 2. Josh Data sits 3rd. It's Will Howarth who has the comfortable advantage in the championship standings, and one that's likely to be extended, with neither Mark Payne nor Jamie King featuring here. And Nick Bennett, who is 4th in the championship standings, sitting at the moment down in 9th position in terms of the Q2 results. Coming towards the checkered flag then, with less than 20 seconds now on the clock. Another new personal best last lap around for Richard Holmes-Williams, but time's running out if he wants to get the better of Will Howarth. Howarth with a 49.6, Richard Holmes-Williams with a 49.9. Paul Nicholls may just get another lap. He was just coming over the line as the checkered flag fell at the end of the 12-minute session, and Andy Whedon is the first rider to appear on the timing screens as having taken that checkered flag, but one or two ahead of him may have completed their session as well. Howarth, Holmes-Williams and Dart are the top three at the moment. Holmes-Williams just crossing the line, again improves on his personal best, but not quite able to get to Will Howarth's 49.6, and just under 2/10 in arrears in the end of the fastest lap in qualifying 2 set by Will Howarth. So the session will finish with Howarth and Richard Holmes-Williams over a second clear of anyone else. So you can see what the fight is going to be when we get to race action in terms of the top 2 positions. Howarth versus Holmes-Williams is what we'll be watching out for. Josh Darter then from 3rd position leading the group behind. That battle from 3rd all the way down to 8th position in the timings, separated by a second. A bit of a gap behind Darter to Justin Bainbridge, who finishes 4th, and then 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th positions all tucked in nice and close, as was Matt Birkin in 8th position. Nick Bennett and William Birkin rounding out the top 10, and then gaps a little bit bigger behind those riders, but certainly between 4th and 8th positions. A highly competitive qualifying 2 session, and we also saw Will Howarth and Richard Holmes-Williams swapping and changing places before Howarth set that brilliant 49.6, and although Richard Holmes-Williams tried to gain ground on him, he just fell short with a 49.8.
This is the Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB.
I said, take it easy, baby, I worked all day and my feet feel just like lead. You got my shirt tails flying all over the place and the sweat popping out of my head. She said, hey, bossa nova, baby, keep on working, for this ain't no time to quit. She said, go, bossa nova, baby, keep on dancing, I'm about to have myself a fit. Bossa nova, bossa nova. I said, hey, little mama, let's sit down and have a drink and dig the band. She said, drink, 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 oh, fiddle-de-dink, I can dance with a drink in my hand. She said, hey, bossa nova, baby, keep on working, for this ain't no time to drink. She said, go, bossa nova, baby, keep on dancing, cause I ain't got time to think. Bossa nova, bossa nova. It's hot in here and it's oh so cool outside. If you lend me $1, I can buy some gas and we can go for a little ride. She said, hey, bossa nova, baby, keep on working, for I ain't got time for that. She said, go, bossa nova, baby, keep on dancing, or I'll find myself another cat. Bossa nova, bossa nova. Bossa nova, bossa nova. Bossa nova, bossa nova.
Come over here.
All you got is this moment. 21st century is yesterday. You can care all you want. Everybody does, yeah, that's okay, yeah. So slide over here and give me a moment. Your moves are so raw. I've got to let you know. I've got to let you know. You're one of my kind. I need you tonight.
Welcome back to round 2 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing Mini Bike Championship here at Red Lodge. We're into the final Q2 session before the lunch break, the penultimate Q2 session in general. And just as I say that, we've actually got a red flag showing out on the circuit at the moment after the majority of the riders have completed 3 laps. Some of the riders were on to their 4th lap, and they are just settled in before the 180. So, yes, we're waiting for further information before we can resume. But in terms of the junior LC40 category, it's Aidan Davey who leads the way in the championship, and this is one of the most closely fought championships because Davey holds that lead by just 5 points, having taken 2 race victories out of 3, second in the 3rd race of the weekend, and Casey O'Gorman with 2 second places and a win. Casey O'Gorman sat top of the timesheets at the time of the stoppage in this second qualifying session, only narrowly ahead of Ross Maguire, and Aidan Davey also in there. So the top 3 in the championship standings coming into this second round in the junior LC40 category were the top 3 in Q2 at the time of the stoppage of this second qualifying session in the junior LC40.
This is Cool Fab Racing. Live coverage all season on the Cool Fab Racing Facebook page and on the website coolfabracing.com. Cool Fab Racing. Live coverage all season on the Cool Fab Racing Facebook page and on the website coolfabracing.com.
Welcome back to live online radio coverage of round 2 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing Mini Bike Championship from Red Lodge. We're back in England after our opening round trip to South Wales. I'm just dipping into Facebook and Twitter before we go to lunch. Thank you to everyone who's sent in their messages. We've got at least a dozen posts and shares and everything, all welcome. So thank you very much. Just a few names: Roxanne Edmonds, Andrew Littlefair, Scott Ogden, Robert Keeling, Maz Brown, Louis Gordon, Callum Shields. So thank you very much all for your likes, for your shares. Does obviously support us, and we're trying to get the message out to as many people as possible about what we're doing both this weekend and in general through the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship. We are back green again. Didn't want to alarm anyone at home by talking about the fact that there was an incident, just a crash after the 180 on the left-hander in and around where the curb is on the exit of the turn, that necessitated intervention. But we are now back up and running with the remainder of this, what is the last session. You get through all of the qualifying sessions completely unscathed, and then on the last one before lunch there's an incident. I think that's called something like Murphy's Law, if I'm not incorrect. We're over halfway through this session now that we've got back underway. There's still less than a tenth of a second between Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire at the top of the timings, and as I said previously, that's the expected championship battle, as well as Aidan Davey, who was excellent through the races at the opening round in Clandown. Just watching the riders exiting the 180 in a group of 6, and then an overtaking manoeuvre as they try and shuffle for position heading up the slight incline towards the S's, the top bend here on the circuit. Declan Connell and Bailey Stewart-Campbell both setting new personal bests on their previous lap for 4th and 5th positions. Let's see whether they can continue to reel in the lead group. Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire at the moment slightly isolated in the timings, about half a second clear of Aidan Davey, and then that group behind all closely packed together. But at the moment they're running together on the circuit as well. Ross Maguire, Casey O'Gorman, Aidan Davey and Declan Connell, just watching them filter through down towards the 180. Very technical circuit, plenty of twists and turns, plenty of left-handers as well for the riders to negotiate. Only now are they starting to spread out slightly, but as I've said, that group all together, and I think they're holding up one another's pace as well, looking at the timings, heading around about the 50.1 mark, the majority of them around that time frame last lap around, and the fact that they're going in a group probably doesn't help them in that sense. They are significantly slower at the moment than their outright pace, but now they've spread out and started to pass one another and filter into position. Casey O'Gorman is just weaving around on the back of Ross Maguire now, setting a new fastest lap of this qualifying 2 session of 47.8, and tucked up behind Ross Maguire. I wonder for how long that will be the case. Not very long by the looks of it. It looks as though he's managed to get through. So Casey O'Gorman now leading that group that I was talking about of 6 riders, with a new fastest lap of this second qualifying session, 47.8, which is now the time to beat, over half a second clear of Ross Maguire, who sits second. Aidan Davey, Declan Connell and Taylor Lawrence all setting new personal bests last lap around, so the pace is certainly starting to come to these riders with just over 3 minutes remaining in the second qualifying session of the junior LC40 category. Still riders in packs, but I suppose that's nothing less than you expect when you've got 19 riders out on the circuit together. Obviously a group, just watching a pack come down the Simpson Straight down towards Paddock Bend. That's another pack that there is out on the circuit of 5 riders all going together, just trying to catch a glimpse of who they are as they come over the start-finish line. That's a group of riders including 7th and 10th position. 7th place Bailey Stewart-Campbell, Louis Rendell's also in that group, towards the back of that group. In terms of the positions at the moment, it's Casey O'Gorman then with a half-second lead over Ross Maguire in second. Tenths of a second further back, Aidan Davey, who's gradually improved during this session. Declan Connell sits fourth at the moment. He's got a bit of a gap between himself and the top three. As was the case at the opening round, Davey, O'Gorman and Maguire, who locked out the podium at round one in Clandau, well, they are leading the timesheets here as well. Sandy Horn just bursting up the positions, up to fifth position now with a 49.9, just 2/10 of a second slower than Declan Connell, who on that lap set at 50.1 but has a personal best of a 49.7. Bailey Stewart Campbell improving his position. He's now up to seventh with a 50.2, so you can see that the riders continuing to improve on their times. I think their flow was interrupted somewhat by that red flag early in this second qualifying session, but now that they've got back up and running, the times have started to tumble towards the end of the session. Still time to set another couple of laps. They've got less than 2 minutes though now to try and set the best possible time. Casey O'Gorman, Ross Maguire and Aidan Davey still going together in a group at the front, and then a separate group on the track together. Sandy Horn, Taylor Lawrence and James Cook, and Cook setting a new personal best on that last lap to displace Bailey Stewart Campbell and move up to seventh position. Declan Connell at the moment isolated on the circuit. He sits also in an isolated fourth position, 2/10 of a second clear of Sandy Horn, but a second back from the top three battle, which at the moment is separated by 7/10 of a second. So O'Gorman, Maguire and Davey leading the timing. Declan Connell and Sandy Horn rounding out the top five. Taylor Lawrence, James Cook and Bailey Stewart Campbell completing the top eight. Evan Belford down in ninth position ahead of Emmanuel Brinton, who completes the top 10. New fastest lap of qualifying two from Casey O'Gorman. I did suggest that the times were tumbling the more this session went on. O'Gorman with a 47.7. Ross Maguire also with a new personal best, trying to go with Casey O'Gorman, and Aidan Davey is within that group as well. As I said previously, Declan Connell isolated on the circuit. He's managed to improve on his previous best with a 49.5 on that last lap. Still a bit of a gap though to broach to the top three, and particularly to Casey O'Gorman, who now leads by half a second as we come towards the checkered flag that will complete the morning session in qualifying two. Casey O'Gorman, Ross Maguire and Aidan Davey in that order in the timings at the moment. Aidan Davey was unable to match his previous personal best on his previous lap. Ross Maguire then comes over the line and does improve on his previous personal best, but still can't get in touch with Casey O'Gorman, who was slower that lap around, but a 47.7 looks set to be the pole setting lap now as he finishes top in Q2. The riders still winding their way around to complete this session. That group of three at the top of the timings may just get in another lap. Not sure whether they're going to be able to go any faster than their previous efforts, with O'Gorman on top, Maguire second, Aidan Davey third, Declan Connell in fourth position with a new personal best on his previous lap, his 13th completed lap of Q2. Sandy Horn, Taylor Lawrence, James Cook and Bailey Stewart Campbell completing the top eight have all completed their sessions, and it does look as though the top three will just get in another lap as they come to the checkered flag. Both Aidan Davey and Ross Maguire coming over the line with Casey O'Gorman. Aidan Davey further improving on his personal best, so he's going to finish with a 48.5, but it's still short of Ross Maguire by about 4/10 of a second. Maguire then finishing in P2 in qualifying two with a 48.1, but no matching Casey O'Gorman, who finishes with a 47.7. I must admit that wasn't consistent around that mark. He was matching the pace of Maguire and Davey for the majority of the session, but just one superb lap has given him a significant advantage in Q2, and therefore an emphatic looking top spot in that second qualifying session in the junior LC40 category. Well, we're now heading away from the circuit and towards a lunch break before we get underway with the last qualifying session and all of the race one block. So the first round of races this weekend, all counting towards championship points, of course, and heading into the completion of the event here today. But that's race action then this afternoon. Do join us again live online radio via the FAB-Racing website, and of course we're live on Facebook from this afternoon. So tune in, watch all of the action with us up here in Race Control, with the live timing, of course, as we get underway with race action. That's all to look forward to this afternoon then. For now, the completion of qualifying 2 in the LC40, junior LC40 category. They head away into the pits. We head away to lunch. Join us again at 2:15 when we return to the track here at Red Lodge.
This is Cool Fab Racing. Live coverage all season on the Cool Fab Racing Facebook page and on the website coolfabracing.com. Official partner series to the BSB. This is Cool Fab Racing on